Hey, welcome to worshiptutorials.com.
Good morning.
In this video,
Brian, I'm going to stop you right there.
I've never been to heaven.
I've never been to heaven.
But I've been to Fairview, Oklahoma. That's where I grew up. My mom gave me that coffee mug.
Continue.
In this video, Bradford and I are going to hopefully convince you that you need a Singlecut Les Paul style guitar in your life. Because we're going to talk about why they're awesome and, curiously, why you don't see them so much. This video is brought to you by PRS Guitars, Paul Reed Smith. Now, full disclosure, PRS sent us these two guitars, but we feel, and this is unbiased, we feel like these are two of the best Singlecut Les Paul style guitars we've ever played.
We asked them.
Yeah,
because
they did not approach us, we approached them.
We told them our idea of this for this video. So we also have this Epiphone Les Paul, which...
Yes.
We can put in the comments the link below to our video that we kind of...
The series that we did.
Was it 3 videos we did?
At least. But these are the PRS McCarty 594 guitars. This is the core version, the highest end. It's not like a wood library or anything like that, but this is...
The levels of PRS gets confusing.
The expensive one. This is the S2, which is also made in the U.S., We'll talk about these guitars more a little bit in a bit. You could think of this like Gibson's studio line.
Okay.
A little more stripped down, a little more affordable.
It still looks good.
But still made on the same factory line that this one is made in.
Yeah, and it still looks good, but you can kind of see... Because like this...
It's beveled, it's not carved.
It's beveled and that's carved. So things like that, like, they're not ginormous compromises at all.
Yeah, and I've done a video comparing these two guitars, and they are surprisingly similar, both in feel and in tone.
Yes.
And they are two of the best examples of Singlecut Les Paul style guitars I've ever played.
I'd say so too.
Yeah, they're awesome. So the whole point of this video, and the reason we wanted to make it when we told PRS, is like the Les Paul is, you could argue it's the most famous guitar of all time, the most popular guitar of all time.
When cartoon characters have a guitar, it's typically like...
It's either a Strat
like a Les Paul or a Strat. Sometimes it's other stuff, but like for the most part.
It's one of those.
Yeah.
And you don't see it much in praise and worship music. Like in modern praise and worship music.
I think a little more specific. I bet a lot of people are like, I play one.
Yeah.
Okay. In fair, yes. In like the guys that we, in the bands that we replicate, in the bands that we are getting those guys.
So we're talking Bethel.
Yeah, Bethel, Hillsong, Elevation. But the point is, they're not as widespread as you think. And we think...
It's not like a Telly or a Jazzmaster.
No.
Or anything like that.
But it's like, it's got this stigma. And I brought that up because for me, up until, I don't know, maybe about 2-3 years ago, I kind of bought into that.
Yeah. So what was your impression of the Les Paul style guitar?
To be almost 100% serious here, Les Paul equaled Guns N' Roses to me.
Slash.
Yeah. Like that was what, because that's what he's known for.
I don't understand the problem.
Yes. But to me, to hearing that, I'm like, okay, so Sweet Child of Mine is like the neck pickup on a Les Paul.
It is.
I have zero use for that tone.
Beautiful.
My initial gut response is I don't want that tone. It's not that I don't like it. It's that it's just like, that's not what, like if I could only have one guitar, that's not the sound I want. How's that? Yeah. So the stigma to me is, this is what Slash uses. This is what Jimmy Page uses.
Yes. It's a rock and roll, classic rock guitar, or like hard rock, modern hard rock. So I think part of the stigma of why these style of guitar isn't used a ton in this genre is because we love really clear, bright pickups or bright sounding guitars like Telecasters, which strangely the Strat is also not like that super popular, and it fits that bill. We'll talk about that in another video. But we like these guitars that are really bright, really chimey, A lot of that has to do with the amp as well. And single cut style guitars like this with humbuckers are known to be thick and big, you know.
And not a lot of headroom.
Yeah.
So, like, in other words, like, your pickups go from, like, clean and, like, probably mega clean in order to create some space, and then, like, mega dirty.
Yeah.
And so dynamics are really important to worship guys. That's what they really want. And so a lot of these guitars... So we can
use all these reverbs and delays and not make them sound like mush.
Yeah. And so a lot of these guitars, though, the stigma, going back to that, is that there's, like, it's just, like, rock all the time.
And I think that's because there were lots of guitars, and Gibson did this for a while too, where they would put really high output pickups in them.
Yeah.
And they would put like very modern sounding
because that's pickups. Who was typically buying them.
Right.
But there's more to the single cut style than that.
Les Paul is a mahogany body with a carved top, and the top is a maple cap. So if you were to, actually you can see it on the gold top there. Hand me the gold top and I'll explain sort of the anatomy of the Les Paul.
You can see it as I pass it to Brian.
Yes, so it's kind of got some dust on it. So this dark red part is a mahogany slab, and where you would see the gold, this is binding, but the maple cap starts right about where the binding is. So there's a maple cap that gets pretty thick in the middle. So, a lot of the tone of a Les Paul has been attributed to the body style and construction.
I mean, it's
the
solid.
Woods. The mahogany body, maple cap, mahogany neck. This one has a rosewood board, and most of them did have a rosewood board traditionally. They famously have this neck break. I forget the angle, but it's a kind of a steep
no pun intended
angle break, and they famously break. The original Les Paul, of course, did not come with a Bigsby tailpiece.
Back to what we were originally doing.
We put that on there aftermarket, but it had a stop tail type of a bridge, 2 humbucking pickups that have been what you will hear now is PAF. That means patent applied for pickups. And that's pretty much it. Volume, tone, volume, tone. So you get a volume and a tone for each pickup. And the Les Paul has a sound, a vibe, that really no other style of guitar can get.
I mean, it's a solid block of wood.
And many of them, this one included, are very, very heavy.
Yeah, that one's extra heavy.
So a few more things about the single cut style guitar, specifically these PRS 594s. Now the Gibson and Epiphone Les Pauls have one thing about them that makes them actually really, really unique and different from a Fender style guitar, if you're used to playing that, is the scale length. So initially there were basically 2 scale lengths of guitar. There was the Fender scale length, which is 25.5 inches. The scale length is how much distance there is between the bridge and the nut. So Gibson style guitar is 25.5 inches. Gibson style guitar, Les Paul, 24.75 inches, so it's shorter. So if you think about it, there's less tension on the strings. So playing a Gibson style guitar and back to back with a Fender style guitar, they feel very different.
Yeah.
The Gibson feels a little slinkier. It's easier to bend. A lot of people will say that a Gibson plays better, easier than a Fender because of the scale length. So PRS is what I would consider like the third sort of scale length of guitar, at least in modern guitars. And they use a 25-inch scale length. So it's a little longer than the Gibson, a little shorter than the Fender. I really like it. Like my Custom 24 has that 25-inch scale length. Now the McCarty 594, the reason it's called a 594 is because it is a 24.594-inch scale length. So it's actually shorter than the Gibson scale length. So these essentially feel, as far as scale length, will feel like playing a Gibson.
Yeah.
They're just a tiny bit shorter. But it does make them a little easier to play, I think. Mm-hmm. So we want to talk about why we think the Singlecut style guitar needs to make a resurgence or a surgence.
Is that a word?
I don't know. I just made it up. In the praise and worship world. Were the Les Pauls ever big in praise and worship? You know, our friend Stu G from Delirious famously played a Les Paul.
Where's our horn?
In praise and worship. It still does. Probably the original one that he had.
He's got at least two killer
ones. Yeah,
older ones.
Look, why don't we give Stu a FaceTime call, and we can let Stu tell you why he thinks that the.
I want to give you a FaceTime call.
Did I just boomer myself? So Stu's gonna share with us why he thinks the Les Paul is so great. Hey Stu, what's going on?
Hey.
Man, good to see you. How you been?
Good. Yeah, doing well, thank you.
Single-cut style guitars. So the video was sort of sponsored by PRS because they sent us some PRS 594s. Have you played any of those, by the way?
I haven't played a PRS since I played a gold top PRS that belonged to Andy Summers.
What?
Whoa.
In the 80s. So it would have been like probably 1988 or something.
So you've got Andy Summers, you've got mid to late 80s PRS. You got a lot of untouchables in that story. That's pretty awesome.
I should have bought it, shouldn't I?
Yeah. By the way, if you're watching this video and you don't know who Stu G is, Stu G.
Where have you been?
Yeah. Stu was the lead guitar player, songwriter, were you a founding member of?
Yeah.
Founding member of a little band called Delirious, who...
Question mark?
Yes. Is an enormously influential band in modern worship music. But you played a lot of Les Pauls in Delirious stuff. Maybe tell us about your guitars that you have that are in that style and what you love about them, what makes them great.
So it started off when we made a record called King of Fools, which has songs like Here's Mystery Maker on there. That was when I started to use a Les Paul, and I had a loaner from a shop called Chandler Guitars in the UK, and that was where I played the PRS actually. Our producer at the time was a guy called Andy Piercy, and he said, you know, Stu, I've always imagined you at the front of the stage with a Les Paul slung around your knees, and so I got a loaner from Chandler Guitars when we made that record. And yeah, that was the beginning of it. So that was a Sunburst Les Paul standard. I reached out to Gibson actually, and we struck up a friendship. You know, because at the time in the UK, we were releasing singles into the mainstream charts and stuff like that, as well as playing those same songs at churches. So I reached out to Gibson, and we came to like an artist arrangement, and I ended up getting a Cherry Sunburst Les Paul, which I've still got. Actually, I'll just get it. Hang on. This is my Delirious Cherry Sunburst Les Paul.
Love it.
And it's a little bit beaten up on the back, through the old buckle rash. Yeah, this guitar was like a mainstay of us touring and recording from King of Fools onwards. And this has been all around the world. And I don't know how many gigs it played. Hundreds. People just associate humbucker guitars with kind of big rock and roll, but if you're a fan of The Edge, and you see him doing, real crystal clear stuff. I'm thinking like End of the World off Acton Baby, or you see them do that live. He's got a Les Paul on his neck, and
that's
it's kind
true.
of, crystal clear and shiny.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you can get that. That's what a Les Paul does, Oftentimes, like the song on Delirious album, like Inside Outside, was just that middle position.
Yeah.
Here. And clean, like running your amps clean and what have you, with some delay. So it's very versatile, like way more versatile than people's assumptions. My other Les Paul is a 74.
Man.
Well, it's between 74 and 76. It's hard to date actually, but it's a gold top and it's a deluxe, and so it has the mini humbuckers on there, which are like single coils. And so this, you talk about the Telecaster. This sounds kind of similar. It's a little bit more rock and roll, but very bright, very present, and very chiming. This came about on the Metamorphosis record, this one. So I had a couple of Les Pauls over the years. I've been playing guitar for 40 years now, right? And so I have to go to the chiropractor pretty regularly because all those years of having a heavy guitar on one side of your body, plus lifting your foot up most of the time because you're on a volume pedal.
That's true. You're kind of.
It's like it's bent me up a little bit. So.
but is it worth it?
Oh, absolutely.
Well, Stu, thank you so much for taking this FaceTime call that we made to you, Bradford.
Thank you, Stu.
Dude, it's so good to connect with you as always.
As always.
Yeah, always a pleasure. And anytime, I'm always available for you.
Awesome. Thanks, Stu.
Thanks, Stu.
All right, take care.
Study the Les Paul and the Singlecut style guitar, the original ones, like the ones like the 58, 59, the bursts and that kind of thing, those original PAF pickups are often described as just a big Telecaster. Like that's how they sound, which is the perfect sound for modern praise and worship, if you ask me.
If you ask me, too.
And if you get a really good Singlecut, or if you get really good pickups and put them in any really guitar, but this style included, like what we did with the Epiphone here, or what PRS has done with the 594. These pickups are PRS's 5815 pickups. So the first number being inspired by pickups from 1958. Yep. So that would be like a 58 Gibson Les Paul. They designed and developed them in 2015. So they're the 5815 pickups. And these are LTs, that means low turn. So they're slightly less output, 5815s, and you get that PAF sound with this, which is lots of clarity, lots of headroom, really bright, but if you gain them up, they sound huge.
Yeah.
In the best way possible.
And I think that the fact that they're a humbucker is what you could, just a humbucker in general tends to kind of carry a stigma, is kind of more the thing, I think. Because like for me, I used to never really want humbuckers. But between these pickups and in this, so we talked about this one, this is the S2.
That's the S2, yeah.
This has the 5815 SE, right?
Just S. 5815S.
So these are imported.
Yeah.
But they're still the same thing. They're a difference.
They're designed to sound just like these.
Yeah.
But they're made overseas.
Yeah, you can hear a little difference. It's not
the rest
drastic.
Of the guitar is not made overseas, but the pickups.
Okay, so it's just the pickups.
Yeah, and some of the hardware might be from the SE models.
Okay.
Yeah. But those 5815S pickups are very good. You have them in your
I have a hollow body 2.
The SE hollow body 2.
Yes.
And they do, like, I'll link the video below where I compared these two guitars. They sound so close. Like, these just have a little bit more depth, a little bit more clarity. They sound a little richer, but very close. Here's another example.
Yes, because this is what started changing my mind about humbuckers.
Yeah, so, and Bradford mentioned this was the first experience we ever had with Lambertones, and it was kind of random how it all came together. We did this project with this Epiphone where we sent it to 920D and they did all kind of stuff, and they put these Lambertone Crema pickups in it. And the Crema is Curtis's PAF style pickup. And they don't sound that different than the 5815.
I would say the differences to me are more like a stylistic thing.
Yes.
Over like I bet you Curtis could make pickups that sound like this and vice versa. Not to diminish either company's thing. Yeah. It's the flavor. But like I know of some people who are purists, like they love Les Pauls and they love that dry, like they love plugging straight into an amp. And I've heard guys say that this is a very faithful. Here we go. It's a great representation of a PAF. It's
like the
different.
Old late 50s Gibsons.
Yep.
So the Singlecut Les Paul style guitar is, I think, seriously underrated in its versatility. It can do all kinds of stuff. So it can just do straight rock and roll on the bridge pickup. It can do really clean, jazzy, warm stuff on the neck pickup. These neck pickups and these guitars sound awesome, and they're very unique.
Yeah.
They're super warm and glassy. Middle position, you can get some really jangly stuff in the middle position too. And a lot of these guitars, like these, the PRS guitars, all do coil splits.
That was what I was about to say. Like,
and they do it well.
Like, yeah, especially PRS has got it down. A lot of times when you do the coil split or coil tapping, it does result in a little bit of a volume drop because, and it makes sense, you're basically splitting the pickup in half. PRS has figured out something that whatever it is, but you can't. They like,
do it and Sir do it.
Yes,
just about as good as anybody I've ever heard.
It's crazy, but like you can't like take a Strat pickup and just like have it look like a Strat and then hit a button and it becomes a humbucker.
No,
like you have to do other things, and so like humbuckers and this style of guitar. I mean, like so you can split both of these.
Split them individually. This guitar does not.
No,
there is no coil split.
You can do that with Curtis's stuff. He does sell them that way, like 4-wire. If you're interested, you can.
It's just the Epiphone doesn't. I don't know. Some models do. A lot of Gibsons do though.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a matter of getting a different wiring harness. You can get a Singlecut. You could get a guitar like this, a McCarty, and you could use it virtually for all your songs, and like randomly decide you need a split single coil neck pickup tone, and you could do that. So it's very flexible if that's important to you. I know some people, I tend to err more on the side of I want a guitar and I want to use it for the thing it does well. I don't particularly care for a guitar to do a whole bunch of stuff, but when you have a guitar like this style, it's a lot easier to get more out of it.
Yeah.
Now, next level would be like one of these with a Bigsby.
What? Like this? You mean a 594 with a Bigsby?
A 594.
I don't know.
They make things like that. That's where your custom 24 kind of comes in.
Yes,
I guess.
I don't think you want to touch perfection. You know what that guitar is that you've just described? It's the DGT.
That is what that. See, that's more
exactly
history.
What it is.
That's exactly what David Grissom said, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, he wanted to replicate his '60s 335 and put a trim on it, and PRS was like, "Let's do it." that is the case for the hardtail trim without a tremolo of any kind. In
Bigsby,
praise and worship, I think a lot of people feel like a trim is like a necessity. You know, for playing the really ambient stuff, you can put a little movement on it. It's really nice, I will admit, and I do it a lot. But I think there's something to be said for the hardtail, and most of the reason why I think it's so important is because of tuning stability, which is funny because we're talking single cut Les Paul style guitars, and Gibson and Epiphone as well have a different headstock design. So if you notice the tuning pegs go out like this, and so like this D and G string.
The head stock is like a triangle that gets a little wider as opposed to the top. Yeah.
And so you'll notice the D and the G string come straight, and then they go up and down. And this break angle right here causes a ton of tuning issues. PRS, as we talked about earlier, their pursuit of perfection on guitars, they fixed it. Their tuning pegs go in like this instead of out, so the strings come through the nut and they break and they're straight.
Makes sense.
And so you don't have that tuning issue. So any guitar like, you know, where the strings have a normal straight break angle over the nut, and a hardtail like a Telecaster, for example, or one of these PRS 594s, like the tuning stability, assuming the nut is cut well, is just, you get them in tune, you stretch out the strings, and you can wail on it, and they don't go out of tune.
Bada bing, bada boom.
And high-end tremolo, well, like Strat style tremolo or a Bigsby for sure. Like if you use it much, you are just tuning all the time. And it gets super annoying.
And like you just got to take care of it too, which is another thing.
There's a lot of maintenance and upkeep. This takes time to develop technique, but you can get a lot of that movement and that sound with your left hand or your fretting hand technique, vibrato.
Yeah, and you won't regret having a good left hand technique for that, because I find a lot of times I am more likely to mess something up trying to find my Bigsby, and my hand will
you do it in videos from time to time. It's kind of funny.
I try to grab it, and I'll miss it, and I'm like, whatever. Just keep playing. And I'm like, whatever, one take, let's go. But like, getting a guitar like this, I think will help your using a guitar with a hardtail. You realize you don't need it. Like you may miss it a little bit, but like you can add a little bit of vibrato. You can't really hear this, but like
you do a lot with your left hand.
Yeah, which I think helps.
I think it sounds better. You have more control.
You have more control, and like, you know, I think it's a sign of a well-seasoned musician.
This is in defense of the hardtail.
Yes,
because I think it has some distinct advantages, and I really do enjoy playing guitars with hardtail. And I mean, you can argue too that the sustain and the attack of the note is different in a good way.
So the whole point is that hardtails are not bad.
The other point of this video is that you, assuming your budget allows for it, should seriously consider getting yourself at least one of these days
a single cut
Les Paul style guitar, and use it on Sundays with pride.
The point still stands. A single cut style guitar with humbuckers and with a slab of wood, a thick slab of wood like this, it's going to have this thicker, warmer, more saturated thing with more sustain.
It's very nice.
Than a single coil of some sort.
Yes. So. Thank you so much for watching.
Thank you for listening to our rambling about guitars.
As we wax eloquently about single cut style guitars.
Single cut, because there's only one.
So we have links below to all the stuff we've been talking about in this video. Subscribe if you haven't already. We'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.